All right, good morning everyone. I'm glad that you guys are here. Excited to be able to spend a few minutes talking about our vision. And my name is Vince Capobianco. First of all, I want to thank you. Normally when you come for an interview, it's usually just a one-on-one thing. But what I need to do in order to actually interview you is tell you about our company and tell you about our vision. And the reason why I have to do it is because it's my vision. Okay, and there's a saying, and it's a very old saying, it says a vision can't be taught, it has to be caught. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you about my vision for RJS Roofing and Construction and Safe Bay Roofing and Construction. And if it catches you, then you're going to want to stay and do your interview. The interviews today will be conducted with Paul, and here in Decula, they will be conducted with Tina. So at the end of this, you're going to be asked 3 questions. Did you hear all that? Do you have any questions? And when will you be ready to begin? That's it. So in the next 60 minutes, I'm going to kind of walk you through hopefully everything that you need to know about this company and this opportunity, and you're going to determine whether you see yourself in it. So that you don't waste your time, if anywhere in between now and when I'm done, you decide this isn't my thing, then you can go. Just don't walk in front of the camera. So, as I said, my name is Vince Capobianco. I'm from upstate New York. I've been living in Georgia since 1988, which is usually pretty much before just about everybody in the room has been born. Except for one person. 2 people. Never mind. But I'm pretty much from Georgia now, but I'm a country boy from upstate New York, and so I miss it sometimes. But I grew up in a unique scenario because my dad was a business consultant, and I've been a business consultant for 34 years. And so there's been twice that I've stepped away from my actual job of being a business consultant to get involved with the business. And both times, those businesses ended up becoming public companies. So what we did was we helped them with their business plan. We did a PPO, a private placement offering, to get all of the finances in order and to certify the business plan and the projections and everything. And then we reverse merged it into a public shell, and we did a small cap IPO, initial public offering. Raised several $1 million for each of those companies. It was very exciting. Of all the years, all the things that I've done, those experiences were off the chart. It's very exciting getting involved with a company that goes public. And I had kind of retired about 2 years ago, semi-retired. I'm not the kind of person who stops working, especially when you're a consultant, because people know you're always calling you, hey, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? Okay, get your checkbook and I'll talk to you. No, I'm not like that. But what happened was, about 1.5 years ago, I'd come to a decision that I was bored and I wanted to do something, and we call it, as you get older, called a swan song, like your last thing that you're going to do. Maybe something that's, for you, the best thing that you've done. That's what you're trying for anyway. And so I started to think, what kind of business would I go in if I wanted to have a really successful business that I could bring public? And when you start to try to come up with an idea for a business, this is free advice for you. If you ever decide that you want to be in business, this is how you get in a business that makes billions rather than millions. It's very simple. All you have to do is figure out a vertical market or a type of business that will not be affected in any negative way by the economy, whether it's in a recession or whether it's booming, by whatever political party is in charge of the government. You may think that has nothing to do with it, but it really has a lot to do with it. And once you've identified that business, now you begin. So as I started to think, what industry category, what type of business is never influenced by, in this day and age, is never influenced by the people in power or the economy? What's going to continue and grow no matter what? See, a lot of us, we have these impressions. For instance, we think the retail industry is always going to grow, like Amazon, right? Amazon's going to just go crazy. It's taken over everything. They laid off 12,000 people last month. So that's not good. And why does that happen? So it's because there was a spike in the interest rate that causes it as a result of inflation, and people are spending less money. And you know, if 1%, a half of 1%, and there's 12,000 people getting laid off. See how that works? So it's just economics. So that doesn't work. Construction, right? Well, it's the same thing. When the interest rate goes up, fewer people are buying homes, or you make less when you sell the homes because you can only sell it for so much. If the difference is in the payment is interest, you can only, sell the house for so much. A lot of homeowners trying to sell their homes right now are realizing that as they have to continue to reduce the amount that they're selling it for. Just a year ago, if you put your house on the market for $400,000, you're likely to sell it for $500,000. That's how much people were like wanting to get homes. So that doesn't work. So if you read that big long narrative in the Indeed or Job Monster, whatever it was, you would know that my vision revolves around green energy. Whether you agree with the idea of green energy, whether you think the world's going to end in 10 years or whatever, it doesn't matter. The world, whether it ends in 10 years or not, between now and when it ends, the world is going to invest in green energy. Every government will put out billions of dollars, not even in loans, but also in grants. If a person is going to do something with green energy, the government has plenty of money to give to them. So yeah, they want this to happen. Particularly in the United States, this is an important thing. And the reason why is the United States always wants to be number one. They always want to be the first, the best, the greatest. And in the area of renewable energy, they're not. Matter of fact, they're far behind. With other industrialized countries, we are so far behind in the percentage of our buildings that have solar power on them that it's almost embarrassing. Because we like to say we're leading the way with saving the planet, but the fact is, if that's how you measure saving the planet, or if you're even into that, then we aren't. We aren't. Every developed country in Europe is ahead of us. Many in Asia are ahead of us. It's just we're way behind. Now, why is this? Because, and we have access to everything. And we have companies that go around knocking on people's doors trying to sell solar energy. If that hasn't happened to you recently, it will. But why is that? And so the reason is simple, because for the same reason that we're behind. We're America. We're Americans. If I say to you, stop, your first reaction to that is go. If I say to you, turn left, you want to say go straight or turn right. It's just part of our DNA as Americans. We don't like to be told what to do. And it's the same thing. If you go and say, to save the planet, you need to spend $15,000 and put this stuff on your roof, and it's going to save you money, and in about 8 years, you'll have that all paid for. But see, the thing is, we're thinking, wait a minute, $15,000, and then 8 years, what's going to happen in 8 years? They're going to tell me I need more. They're going to tell me I need to replace those because they're old. So this is not working out for me. And so we say no. We say no because we make a decision, particularly on finances, before we make a decision on anything else. So this isn't working. So this is where knowing that whatever political party is in power comes into play. In both of the companies that I brought public, before this one, the government determined the future of the company. And let me be more specific. When you go to DC, there's a phrase we've all heard of called think tanks. It's really just a fancy way of saying a research company. But what people don't know is when they research a business idea what they do is they look and they figure out what legislation will pass. If there's a legislation that will pass that will force a business into being successful or unsuccessful, well, then that's what you would want to know. Because if you know something is going to happen, then your whole business plan revolves around being there when it happens. So let me be very specific here. When I went and did the research and met with these people, I invested some money in order to find out if this really was a good idea. I found out 2 things. So if I never see you again, these are the 2 things you need to remember. Number 1, in 2 to 4 years, there will be a legislation that passes that says every existing residential and commercial building, every new residential and commercial building needs to be built with a certain amount of entry-level solar panels on it. The reason for that is if you do it when they're new, you can roll it into the price, and now every new building, every new home already has it installed. Piece of cake, right? So that's logical. If we want to really make that happen and don't want to make it be a big burden on the people who are having it happen, then they just buy a new home and it already has it on there. It's already built in. It's done, right? So that's the first thing that's going to happen, 2 to 4 years. But this is the blockbuster. Within 2 years after the first legislation, whether it takes 2 to 4 years, okay, within 2 years, there will be a second legislation. And this one will say that every existing residential and commercial building will need to install a certain level of solar. Not a lot, but a certain, what I call entry-level solar. Now, how do you sell that to the public? Well, the first thing is very simple. The government pays for it. 80%, at least 80% will be paid by the government. And you say, well, where's the government going to get the money? Right? And I say, it was like 2 years ago, and I woke up one day and I had $600 in my account. The day before, I had 600 less. Do you remember that? You guys have that happen to you? Where just one day you had $300 extra or $600 if you're married. You just had extra money in your account. Where did that come from? It came from the government. They just deposited money in our account. And they did it, what, 3 times, 4 times? Three times. And if you had children, for every child, you got an extra $300 or an extra $600, depending on their age. It's like crazy. Where do they come up with this money? Well, because they have, the machines that print money. I think they can come up with money whenever they want. And I'm not saying that's the most prudent thing to do. But I am saying that we thought that was free money. But what's happened is there's been a change in the way that we look at things as a nation. The beginnings of something has happened. And what I mean by that is this. In the last election, there was a potential candidate in the Democratic Party that was saying, if you elect me, every American citizen will get $1,000 a month from the government. And he kind of got laughed off the stage. I think his name was Andrew Yang. But he kind of got laughed off the stage, who would ever do that, right? Now I'm going to ask you, after what's happened in the last couple of years and how we got money from the government, if a political candidate is running for president in the next election and he's saying every American citizen is going to get $1,000 a month, it's a little more believable now, isn't it? That person might get some real traction in his candidacy. As a matter of fact, he might actually win just because we could use the $1,000 a month. We don't do the math. We don't think about it. We don't think that if everybody was getting $1,000 a month, then pretty soon a dozen eggs would cost $100. But that's okay as long as we're getting $1,000 a month. That's our first thought, right? It's that's $1,000 a month. So how many hours less do I have to work? How much? And that's how it starts. The thing about it is, this is what the government is going to do. It's going to say that we're going to pay for your solar panels. At least 80%, it may be more. But you have to do it. Yeah. So that means, if you do the math, in 4 to 6 years, at the very latest, every commercial and residential building in this country needs to be getting solar. That's the reason why this is the right business to get into right now. So you're sitting in this office, and you in Florida are sitting in an office, and all around you, you probably see signs of that you are a roofing and construction company, and you're thinking, what does one thing have to do with the other? And now I'm going to tell you. And why you're here, by the way. So, in order to make this happen, and so now you know what needs to happen. We have to be ready in 4 to 6 years to service an entire country worth of demand. Every single building needs solar in 4 to 6 years. So when that happens, we have to be ready. How do you get ready? Well, we could open a bunch of solar panel companies. They're everywhere. You could open them all over the country. Just keep opening up offices, training salespeople, training installation crews, getting all the licensing down pat, and training your administration staff, and setting up financing options with banks so that you have it all set for your branches. But here's the problem. Those solar companies, out of 10 that go into business today, within 2 years, there'll be 2. They fail. And why do they fail? Well, because nobody's buying solar. So if I open, let's say I want 2,000 distribution points for our solar panels. If I open 2,000 of these stores and they're all losing money every month, and I got to wait 4 to 6 years, Do you think that would be the smartest way to set up a distribution network? Though that would be, in technical terms, stupid, right? That would be dumb. So that's out. That's off the table. That's the easiest thing, though. That's the first thing you think of. Let's just start opening these doors. But then I had this other idea, and I think it's a really good idea. Take a company, like a roofing company, any roofing company. First of all, they're wildly successful. They really are, and I'll explain that in a minute. But there's a reason why they're successful, and that is weather happens. And that's important to know. But the other thing that you need to know is when you put on a roof for a customer, and that's primarily what our companies do. When you put a roof on for a customer and that file goes into a file cabinet, when's the next time you're going to need to look at that file?
15 years.
10, 15 years, right? Depending on if there's some really bad weather. But if there's no really bad weather and you've done your job, it's going to be years. You know what you call that? A dead client list. It's a dead client list. There's no value to that client list. It's just dead. It doesn't have any kind of value because your salespeople have to wait for 10 or 15 years to go back and farm that client list. So what if I could go to any roofing company, anyone who has a client list like that, any painting company, any roofing company, anybody who works at people's homes, any remodeling company, any deck company, any siding company, and I could say, hey, what if I could show you how you could take your dead client list and bring it to life immediately and offer your satisfied customers an opportunity to throw on some solar panels onto their home and save money. Now think about it from their standpoint. They're already making money. They're happy, right? They don't have to train any more salespeople. They don't have to rent another building or any building. They can just stay right where they are. They already have installation crews, and installing solar panels is the easiest kind of installation compared to the stuff that most people do at homes. This is so easy. And if we've already shown them the 3 different ways that they can get financing for their customers through us, then they have what you call a turnkey opportunity for a supplemental product. So instead of making solar the primary product, we take a business that's already successful and we just give them a way to make their salespeople happier because now they have all these previous customers to go, and warm leads, we call those in sales, where you don't have to go out and work really hard to get a new customer. Once you have a satisfied customer and you want 15 minutes of their time in order to show them a great opportunity, well, you know, most people will say, sure, because we love you guys, our roof doesn't leak, you know? So that's the kind of thing where you can make those people happy. Your installation crews, they go from job to job. Most of them are piecemeal, and they have times in between. What if you could fill up all those times in between for them with some extra installs? Now what you've created, you already have a healthy company, now you have a more healthy company. And because you don't have any overhead to cover, you have no overhead to cover, and all the money is produced by the job, you're going to make an extra 15 to 25% on your bottom line every year. And you don't have to do anything because we will send a consultant to your business, teach your salespeople how to sell, teach your installation crews how to install, and show your administrative staff how to work through the financing options that are available through us. So that's what you call turnkey. You just take your already successful business, let us come in and tell your people how they can make more money, and in return, you make more money without changing a thing. You see why that's a better opportunity? You can see that, right? It makes perfect sense. So what I needed to do, though, is I can talk about that, and people can say, yeah, Vince, you're right. Hey, I can sell, you know, I can sell this. But the thing about it is, why sell it when I can show it? So my son-in-law, his name is Roman Jefferson Schnock, RJS, right? And I got him started in the roofing business about 6 years ago. And he had just married my youngest daughter. And he's a great, great guy. You'll meet him. He's a great, great guy. And not only that, but for a young guy, he listens. He actually listens. You know how rare that is with young people? And so he actually listens. And so, which is really important in being successful in business. So he has been successful. So about 1.5 years ago, I said, Roman, I want to play with your company. I just need it for 6 months. I just want to try something. I have some ideas. And I said, how much are you doing right now? He was doing about $60,000 a month, which is great. I said, I'll tell you what, in 6 months, I'll give it back to you, and you'll be doing at least $400,000 a month. How's that sound? here's the keys, do whatever you need to do, you're fine. He was very excited, right? So I was wrong. In 6 months, we were doing over $600,000 a month, and we've never looked back since. Now, why did that happen? We'll talk about that in a couple minutes. What we do different, because we are different, obviously. You don't just spring up and do that kind of thing so quickly. However, if you want to understand what we were doing, you have to also understand what we're going to do. So what we needed was very successful roofing companies. Not just one, but several. So that when we get our first shipment of private label solar panels, and this is also very important, our solar panels are not something you buy off the shelf. Our solar panels are contracted with an overseas company, and we will be receiving our first shipment soon, and those private label solar panels are only available through us. That's also very important, because they're made, our engineers determine whether, what's the best thing to do, and I'm going to tell you a little secret, solar panels aren't all that different. They're solar panels. They don't change a lot, to be honest. No matter what you read or hear, they all kind of operate the same way. But the private label solar panels are important because if I go to this business and I say, hey, we're going to teach you how to do this, and everything that we give them in terms of selling revolves around the quality of our private label solar panels, which are not available anywhere else. You see, the value then is created. And we have what you call in business a licensee or a manufacturer's representative out of that company. And we will go to dozens and dozens and dozens and eventually, actually pretty quickly, hundreds of these companies throughout the United States and set up a distribution network. Now, in 4 to 6 years, that law passes, right? And we've been stockpiling supply for 4 to 6 years. We have warehouses, 3, 4 different parts of the country. Now, we went from getting just a few orders a month, that kind of thing from each of the different outlets, to literally just being inundated. They thought they were in the roofing business, but all of a sudden, the roofs are no longer even a priority because everybody needs solar. And so they just many of them will completely focus on solar until they've met that need, which will take years. So they will go from being particularly successful as a roofing company to wildly successful as a solar company. And they will already have been trained to do so. So what normally happens is the law passes and a bunch of people try to go into business. You know what that's called? Too late. That's called too late. That's what I call it. That doesn't mean that those businesses won't be successful. There's only so many companies that can install solar panels. But they won't be like we will be. Because we will have already known what was going to happen and been prepared so that when it happens, we kill it. You got it? So, I'm going to draw this on the board so you guys can see what we're doing. I'll make 2 little circles. Let's do Atlanta. So this is where we are now. We're in Cumming. We are in Decula. We will be in Austell. We're in McDonough, Fayetteville, Marietta, Athens. And what we'll end up with is 10. So to make it look nice and neat, we'll just draw a circle like this around Atlanta with 10 of these guys. Now each of these will represent a geographical area, a district. That's why your job title is district manager, right? So see, each of these districts represents a very specific geographical area where your branch in your district is the only one. No one else can sell those solar panels in your geographical area. And when I say your, picture yourself, you're just any old roofing company or any old painting company. You purchase not only the licensing, but the sole exclusive rights to sell this product in that area. You understand? We will not allow any one of our distributors to sell our product in your area. You see? Same thing in Tampa. Only in Tampa is a much more diverse geographical area. So, you may be all the way over near Orlando by the time you get done. And Paul is the brains behind all that. So you in Tampa, you can ask Paul about that. But here's where we're looking at 5 in Tampa. And we need to get this done, and we need to get this done fast. So that's where we're at, and that's why we have this ad in the paper. If I'm in Arizona, let's say I'm in Arizona and I have a roofing company, successful roofing company, and I get the advertisement from Conquer Solar, that's us, and I want to meet with somebody. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I talk to them on the phone. One of our reps talks to them on the phone, and they're like, "Yeah, I'd like to talk to you more about that." You know what we do? Come to Atlanta, come to Tampa, and they come. Now they can kick the tires. You know, when you buy a car, you kind of want to kick the tires, right? You want to take a look at it. Well, what we want to do is we want to make a bunch of these cookie cutters, a bunch of little actual existing successful roofing companies and construction companies where people can come from all over the country and see how we've added solar to our already successful roofing company and how much extra we've made. And so what we do is we let them come into any number of these, talk to our district managers, we open up the books and records to them so that they can literally see exactly what we're doing. So now they don't have to guess at how they're going to do. They'll come in, they'll see these little they'll see the little offices just like their little office, and they'll be like, yeah, this is exactly what I do, and if I add this, I'll make this much extra. I'm in. See how easy that is? And just so you know, the fee for licensing, it's not very high at all. Because all we're looking to do is create distribution points for our product. We don't want to get into sales business, that's their business. We want them to be incentivized to do well on their own. So you ask yourself, did Vince invent this idea? And then you ask yourself, why is Vince referring to himself in the third person? Vince doesn't know. So anyway, that's just me. Anyway, the point is, when you go to, how do I say this? Let's see. Lost my train of thought. See, I made myself laugh, and then that just messed me up. No. What will happen is you will need to see another example of how this works all around you every day. In order to understand that, here's what I'll ask you. Tampa, you can yell it out too. Where's the closest vape store? Even if you don't know, just guess.
3 miles.
What'd you say, Tampa? Say it louder.
A minute away.
Yeah, isn't it always? Would it surprise you if I told you that there are over 1 million vape stores in the United States?
Wow.
Google it. There are. There's over 1 million vape stores in the United States. Do you know that during COVID, vape stores were allowed to be open? Isn't that cool? I mean, just because that's an essential thing.
That was essential.
So, yeah. So, here's what's amazing, so you understand. The government, the Small Business Administration, they see vape stores as a preferred business to lend money to. Now, there's a reason why that happens, and that has to do with a lobby. Lobby is when a particular industry, especially manufacturers, go ahead and put together a whole bunch of money so that they can put X amount behind the Republican candidate and X amount behind the Democrat candidate. No matter who wins, they own that candidate. So when a law is about to pass, they want to make sure that they have influence in either direction. It doesn't matter, right? They're very smart. What I'm telling you is that the vape stores is exactly what we're going to be doing, only not vape. In other words, somebody learned that there was going to be a law that was going to pass at some point. And when that law passed, their product was going to need to be available to the whole country or a whole state all at once. And so what they did is while they were stockpiling their product, they were also creating a distribution network to the tune of 1 million distribution points in this country, which is the vape business. Now, a lot of people will tell me that the reason why there's vape stores is, because cigarettes are bad for you, just because it's more fun, because it's colorful and blah, 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 and there's different flavors and all that. And I will tell you, that's a good argument. But if you ever noticed in a vape store, the owners usually just own the one vape store. You don't see a lot of franchises and all that. These people work very hard. And they don't make a great living. They make a good living. They don't make a great living. So what's the point of the vape store? Well, for the owners, they make a living. But for the manufacturers of the mystery product, which I'm going to let you guess in a second, this is billions and billions of dollars. And they don't have to create a distribution network. They didn't have to open a bunch of stores, right? They anticipated that legislation would pass, and they wanted to be ready with their product when it passes, and they wanted to have a place where they could send their product that was going to sell their product so quickly. So my question to you guys is, what's the product? Who's the manufacturer who convinced the government to give a $50,000 loans to every person who wants to go and open a vape store?
CBD.
CBD could be? No? All right, I'll give you a clue. Last November, 2 states legalized it.
Marijuana.
There you go.
Close enough.
That is close. Here's the thing. When marijuana gets legalized, let's say it gets legalized in Georgia. Is it legal in Georgia? No. When it gets legalized in Georgia, and when I say when, that means when. It is going to happen, okay? So when it is legalized, if you own a vape store, you know what you're going to do?
You already have all your stuff in place to sell.
Ready to go.
You're going to take your whole vape, all your little vape vials and products and all that, and move it to half of your store and fill the other half with pot.
True.
Because everybody is going to want to buy pot.
True. That's true.
And where are they going to get the pot from?
Vape stores.
Well, no, they're going to get the pot from the marijuana growers.
Yes, it
They're
is.
the ones with the money behind this whole idea. They're the ones who promoted vape to begin with. Vape came from the marijuana manufacturers because they knew if they could create a business out of something that would keep their distribution network and grow their distribution network so quickly. You're talking about when vape got, when marijuana became legal in, I think it was Maryland, in this last election. Can you imagine it would take literally hours for them to have the trucks rolling?
As soon as it passed.
Hours, just trucks are rolling.
That's funny.
Now, if you waited until the law passed before you started planting marijuana, you'd be way behind, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But if you already knew that the law was going to pass, and you had already planted it and stockpiled it and gotten ready, then guess what? And set up your distribution network, you're done. That's why many of the distributors for the vape products are owned by the marijuana companies.
Yeah.
Got it? That's exactly what we're planning on doing. You create a distribution network at no cost to you with people who are already making money so that when the law passes, you have unfettered access to distribution points for your product. You understand?
Yes, sir.
All right, good. So that's a real big background. And I know that took a while, but now we're going to be like, okay, we got up to the top of the hill. Now we're just going to go, boom, let's talk about this opportunity and fill you in on all this, okay? So let me cover this up. All right. All right, so I'm the kind of person who likes to start at the end. So let me start at the end. Ready? This is the job. Everybody see that? Can you see that in Tampa?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, good, okay. Oh, I forgot, you got like a big TV and all. All right, okay. Okay. District manager. Okay, this is the job that you applied for, that you're here for. This job this is the pay for this job. $100,000 minimum. Okay, say minimum because that's it. You know what minimum means? Can't make less than that. Okay? So let me make that clear, crystal clear. A district manager makes a minimum of $100,000 per year and a maximum of $250,000 per year. Now, why would we put a maximum? Well, if you've been listening, and I gave you a little clue, if we're opening hundreds of distribution points, we need consultants. A consultant is the only level above district manager. Consultants travel. Some people can't travel and they're just happy being a district manager. Okay? But if you want to travel, then consultants make $200,000 minimum. And a good consultant who doesn't mind being on the road the whole year, that's a 7-figure job. Okay? I know. I've been a consultant for 34 years. It's a good job. Trust me. Here's the thing. When you look at this opportunity, I want you to understand that this is where you're starting. Now, before, and while I'm making ridiculous statements that you may have trouble believing, I'll go ahead and say another thing for you. With regards to all of the training that leads up becoming a district manager, at the very most, this is how long it will take for you to be a district manager. That's it. Okay? You'll meet your district managers, you'll talk to people in between. When we get done with this, feel free to ask them whatever you want. Because here's the other thing. I've been doing this a long time. I'm an old guy. I don't know if you can see how gray my hair is in Tampa, but here's the thing. I learned somewhere along the line that when you're looking at people's resumes, you don't need to know their education background. You don't need to know what the job they had before they came here. You don't need to know that. But there is one thing that you need to know about that person. I'm not going to tell you what the one thing is. Well, I may tell you when you get older. But here is the one thing. The one thing leads to this simple fact. You are sitting here because you qualify for this job. So from here on out, I want you to understand something. Tampa and here in Georgia, you're interviewing us. We're offering you the job. It's as simple as that. You're in this room. There are hundreds of people who apply for this job every other week. Hundreds. We are looking for one thing in their resume that qualifies them. It would surprise you to know what it is, and it really doesn't matter. But we are not impressed with your education level, although that's great. If you went to school, that's wonderful. Okay? We're not impressed with your job history. Great. You have all this experience. It doesn't matter. There's something else about you, and that's the reason why you're here. So, while you're interviewing us now, I want to tell you about this opportunity. In order to understand what this job is, you're going to need a list, right? So I'm going to give you a list of two things. Hire, train, and maintain a highly motivated, sales force. This is 80% of your job. Hire, train, and maintain a highly motivated sales force. And think about it. Think about it. What business exists without sales? None. And many of you in this room have an aversion to sales. I know. I saw your applications. You don't come from a sales environment necessarily. Doesn't matter. Because you're smart enough to know that no business exists without sales. All the rest of the business all the rest of the things that happen in business only happen because of sales. Which brings me to number 2. That's the other 20% of your job. You have administration. Now, administration for your job is simple. You have to manage the hiring, right? Of course, you have all that hiring. Not just of your sales force, but you have installation crews, you have administrative staff, you have inspectors. There's all kinds of things that you have to, people that you have to hire. Also, you have to do all the bookkeeping. Remember I told you, you have to be able to open your books to the prospective licensees, to the manufacturer's rep that will be coming all over the country. You'll constantly have people in your branch that are looking at your branch. See your numbers, see how you're doing, see how you do it. How do your sales meetings work? They're going to observe all this. You're going to educate them just by doing your job. You don't have to do anything special, just do your job. Always be very transparent. That is our company motto. Be transparent. Let people see you for who you are. So that's the bookkeeping. You have to do all the scheduling. Obviously, you have a lot of work. You have to schedule it. You have to maintain all the crews. You have the customer service, which is absolutely essential because of referrals, and because remember, if you do a roof for somebody, you want them to be so happy that they're willing to talk to you about solar. Even in the interim, while we wait for the legislation, we want to be selling solar here and there, right? So this is just obviously all the other parts of administration, that's your responsibility as well. And so you may ask yourself, like, well, why is this such a high-paying job, right? I wrote this number here. This is how many installs we're doing. You see this little dumpy place that we're in, and no offense, Tampa, but I've been there. That place is dumpy too. You see this little dumpy place that you're in, right? It's got a little reception area. It's got a manager's office. It's got a little conference room, and it's got a little kitchenette in the back, right? And a restroom. And that's it. Simple place, right? 18 roofs will be installed this week and next week. Now, just take an average roof, 20,000, right? Times 18, that's 360,000 in a week. So that's 1.4 million per month. That's 18 million a year, 16 million a year at this little dumpy place. Now you should feel a little bit of weight of the responsibility that you have to run a business like this. Okay? Which is why, on the other side of that, we fully train you. You will be trained. And you will be trained in such a way as we run our branches like cookie cutters. What I mean is, if you've ever made cookies with a cookie cutter, you bake the dough, it's all the same. You take that shape and you just stamp it out. So if you went from one branch to the other branch, the paperwork is the same, the bookkeeping is the same, the administrative people do exactly the same thing, the district managers do exactly the same thing. So all of this training is done in such a way as you have a comfort level. And of course you have all the backup of the people who have trained you will be continuing to train you as you go through this process. So that is how this all happens. And why you don't have to be intimidated that, wow, I can run a 14, 16, $20 million company walking in the door. Of course you can, because it's not hard. Because it's broken down into manageable pieces, modules, whatever you want to call it, so that each part, if I want to know how the bookkeeping works, you have an admin who's been fully trained in that, but you need to understand how it works too. How does the ordering work? How does the scheduling work? How do you do insurance claims? These are all things that you have to know if you're in the roofing business. You'll learn all those things, right? So that's an overview of what the job is. Now, I need to tell you just quickly a little bit about how our company operates. This is very important to me, and so it therefore has to be important to you because you're stuck here until I'm done. You're not really stuck. If you don't want to leave, you can. Anyway, this is something that's important to me. So there was this guy, and his name is Napoleon Hill. Anyone ever heard of Napoleon Hill? Usually somebody in Florida has heard of him. But here's something about Napoleon Hill that you may not have known, or you may not know anything about him at all. You know these self-help guys like Tony Robbins and these other people? They late night TV and they're selling you their books and all that stuff. Well, Napoleon Hill, who lived around the turn of the 20th century, the 1800s to the mid-1900s, this guy actually did the work. He's the father of self-help. He did loads and loads of research. And what happened with this guy is, he ended up writing this book, by the way, which you can go get. It's a really cool book. It's called Think and Grow Rich, right? Now this book is the result of literally decades of research. And what his research involved interviewing extensively the most successful men and women of the turn of the 20th century. So these are like your Henry Fords, your Carnegies, your Wright brothers, your Bell, your Edisons, those kind of people. And it all started with this simple thought that he had. Why is it that when the airplane is invented in 1903 by the Wright brothers in the United States, that another airplane was also invented just within a week or two in Europe? And they never corroborated on the technology. They never talked to each other. They didn't share their knowledge. But yet, here is two people, and actually there was way more than two, but there's two groups that are working on the same idea at the same time. And obviously that isn't for one thing, is it? It's everything. Everything that gets invented is a race. Every idea that you come up with, business idea, is a race.
Coming up with first.
So exactly, who comes up with it first gets the most benefit from it. You know, every Home Depot has a Lowe's, right? That's just how it is. But the fact is, the Home Depot is always going to be the biggest beneficiary of a great business idea. That said, with what this guy researched, he had determined that what happens is, and obviously this is his theory, that all the combined knowledge of all the world, everything that's always existed, is in this place called the ether. Think of it like a big cloud, just full of ideas and thoughts and experience. And this cloud is constantly moving forward. But in order for the cloud to move forward, right, each level of new knowledge creates a mountain. And in order for the cloud to absorb the new level of knowledge, it has to release weight, okay, old ideas, or the latest idea, the one the most pregnant idea that needs to just pop out, right, in order to go up over that next mountain to reach the next plateau. And that's why all of us, just about every person I've ever talked to, has had an idea, and then they hadn't done anything with it, and a couple months later they see it on TV, or they see it in the stores. Hey, that's my idea. And his view on that was because that was the very next idea. And when the rain drops, it drops on everybody.
That's it.
So it drops on everybody, and some people do something about it, and some people don't. But somehow, these special people, these titans of industry, they had access to the ideas before they should have dropped out. And so they were just a step ahead. You remember that saying, ahead of their time? They were ahead of their time, and he wanted to know why. And I'll cut to the end here. He came up with 3 questions. And they're so basic, you might think it's silly until you really think about it. The 3 questions that every person, in order to be successful, needs to ask. The first question is, what do I want? That's the first question. And that is 100% of the population. If you ask anybody, what do you want? In a few seconds or a minute, you're going to get something, right? I want to be rich. I want a better relationship. I want a car. I want a nice house. I want wonderful children. Whatever it is, right? Everybody wants something. That's a fact. The first thing that differentiates the truly successful people is that word. What exactly do I want? So I'll give you an example. 50%, actually over 50% of marriages in the United States end in divorce. Okay? So if I'm in a room full of people that have been married, and I say, who's divorced? Half of them will raise their hand. So, yeah, I mean, it happens. So here's the thing that you need to understand. If you know exactly what you want, things change. So I'll tell you a quick story. My brother, when he got married, he was in Missouri. We're from New York, but somehow he ended up in Missouri. And he was much older than me. But when I was 17, we had to travel and go to this wedding. And I'll never forget the wedding for this reason. The pastor took out this sheet of paper. And I got to see it after. It was lined paper. And it was written by his wife, not yet wife, but about to be wife, when she was 14 years old. And at the top of the page it said, my husband will, and then ... And the first thing said, be from New York. Okay, lots of people from New York, no big deal. 2, be Italian. Okay, lots of people are Italian. Be tall. For an Italian, he was tall. And so all this list. But what really struck me is 2 things on that list that made no sense to me. He had to have a big scar on his face. Now, why on earth does somebody put that on their list? And over the years, I got to know her. She had an uncle who had a big scar on his face, and she was like her favorite uncle. So she's 14. She's making a list. She just throws that on there. She wants him to have a big scar on his face. Okay, great. And he's got to have a bad temper, which my brother definitely had a bad temper. Now, not in a bad way, like crazy bad temper, but he had a short fuse, so to speak. But that was what amazed me. Because the thing is, when she met my brother and she looked at this list, and on down this list, one thing after the other, you know who that list was? It was my brother. Do you know how hard it would be to find another person that met all that criteria with a scar on their face?
I was about to say, did he have the scar?
Yeah, that's
Oh, I'm sorry. Forgot the most important part. When he was 18 years old, he got in a wicked car accident, and he he had a scar from his ear to the side of his mouth. Now, most of the time, you wouldn't know that he had a scar unless you got up close, because he always had a beard. But when you grow a beard and you have a scar, the hair doesn't grow there. So you can see, if you look, you can see that there's a scar there. So there you go. He had the scar. The thing about it is, if you knew exactly what you wanted in your significant other prior to meeting them, then you would know when you met them. But for most of us, being honest, we just get married when we're tired of looking. We suddenly realize, I want to get married.
Wow.
And then the very next person that we're with, we marry.
So true.
That's just how it is. That's unfortunate. These highly successful people, not so much. They knew exactly what they wanted. Now the next part is what, and this is really important, I willing to do today to get what I want.
Travel.
And then the third thing is, am I willing to commit to this in writing? So here's the thing, we all have these to-do lists. We spend time on these to-do lists. What am I going to do today? Well, I got to get milk. I got to fill my car with gas. I got to get a car wash, blah, blah, blah. And then afterwards you're saying, wait a minute, what did any of this have to do with me getting to my goal? You see? So most of us, and if I was going to put a percentage of the population, I would say the people who actually do this part is 0.2%, and the people who do this part, 0.000 whatever percentage, okay? The thing about it is, when we start thinking about making a list every day, how often do you think, looking down the road where you want to be, how those items in that list apply to that? Most people, not so much. But there should at least be one or two things that you're doing to get yourself ready to be where you imagined you would be. This is very important, which is why in our company, every single person in this company, including myself, is accountable to create a to-do list every day, which always includes something that gets them towards getting what they want. So on our to-do list, we call it a DSAR, which I'm not even going to tell you what that stands for. It doesn't matter. But anyway, I don't even know why they call it that. It's not my thing. But all right, so it just has those letters on it. What I am willing to do today. It's our reminder. It is at the core of who we are as a company that all of us are working towards something, and that something is, it is our job to help everyone around us get to there. We work for each other here. That is how we've grown so quickly. You may think, how do you get from $60,000 to $600,000 a month in 6 months? How does that happen? Well, it happens because in our rooms, when we have a meeting, okay, we don't have 7 people or 6 people thinking about themselves. That means one person's concerned about your success. What we have is you're in a room, you're thinking about everybody else, which if there's 7 people means there's 6 people focused on your success. You see the difference? You might think that's just language that I'm talking about, but I have seen it over the years, again and again, in the most highly successful companies. The focus has to be on the person next to you. It's so important. It's vital to success. Hi, Tina. So this is vital to our success. I need you guys to get this. If you don't see yourself as a person who is willing to focus on the person next to you and their success as your way of being successful, if you don't define your success by the success of the people around you, how can I ever give you a branch full of people? You understand the problem? So you have to demonstrate that. It's important. All right. So one quick thing, Thomas Edison, right? I'll just say this really quick. He was a big, I think Napoleon Hill loved Thomas Edison more than anybody. Thomas Edison, when he got older, was being interviewed, and he was asked, how did you deal with failing to create a light bulb 10,000 times? And he looked at the reporter and he said, I never failed to create a light bulb 10,000 times. I came up with 10,000 ways in writing of how not to invent a light bulb.
That's right.
And that might seem like just a silly thing that you would just say, but consider this. Do you ever see that picture in the desert of the footprints, and they're like going through the desert and the person's walking all day, and then towards the end of the day it's getting dark and they're really tired, and all of a sudden they see these tracks right here. And it's their own tracks. Because what they did was they didn't have a plan of exactly what they were going to do or where they were going to go, and all of a sudden they went over their own tracks. And for a second they got excited because they thought they found what they were looking for, but the fact is then they almost immediately realized that they incredibly went over their own tracks again. Does that not describe the human condition? How many times have you found yourself right back where you started?
Yep.
Okay? The way you avoid that is you have a plan in writing. Every single time Thomas Edison did a new experiment to create the light bulb, it was written in detail. It may not have worked, but one thing's for sure, he never did the same experiment twice. So that means he always got closer to his goal. That's the key. So that's how this company operates. I think that's important, so I'll take a second and make sure that you understand that so that you know what kind of company you're getting involved with, because you will be held accountable in this area. We make each other successful, and this is how we do it. We remind ourselves that there are things in our life, both professional and personal, that we want to achieve. And we focus on that every day. All right, then the last thing, before I give you the really bad news. This is how our company operates. Something's wrong. Something's off. No, actually, it's not off at all. When the Japanese automakers decided that they were going to take over the American market, what they did was they made sure they have enough money in a basic car. It's like a tin can, basically, with a motor on it. And they started producing these cars en masse. They had no distribution networks, so they went to the American automakers, the Fords, the Chryslers, the Jeeps, and they said, will you just put our cars in your back lot? If you sell them, you can pay us. If you don't, you do whatever you want with them. Crazy, right? Meanwhile, what the American automakers were doing was they were doing ready, aim, fire. So they would design a car, and they would take their whole R&D department and come up with every possible problem that might come in the production of that vehicle. They spent billions and billions and billions of dollars trying to figure out every possible problem, when a fraction of them are all that ever occurred. Meanwhile, the Japanese automakers took the cars that they made and spent their whole budget on how to make those cars better. That's all. How to make them better. And when they first started out, they were the cheap alternative. You couldn't afford a car, you'd go. This was in the 50s, the 60s. But by the time the late 70s and early 80s came around, their cars started to become better. They were much better and very popular because they had bells and whistles that the American automakers had not even thought of. How could that happen? Well, because they had ready, aim, fire on their minds, because they weren't in a hurry. The Japanese automakers were in a hurry to create vehicles that people would love. They went beyond function and went to fashion. And they won. They won, with the exception of probably trucks. I think even to this day, the Japanese automakers succeeded in their goal because ready, fire, aim. This is actually an easy way to describe the experience curve theory of business in case you're collegiate type people. The experience curve theory of business has been used over and over and over again when businesses wanted to take over an industry. AOL. Anyone know what AOL stands for? America Online. America Online. You know, when the internet first came out, the internet cost like a ton of money. You know, you couldn't just like be on the internet for $20 a month or whatever you do, or free for that matter. You'd be on the internet the first couple of years it came out, you'd spend $400, $500, $600, even $1,000 a month to be on the internet. That was it. Yeah, that's where AOL, right? So here's the thing. With America Online, one day, out of nowhere, you get this flyer in the mail and it says, unlimited internet. You paid by the hour, $99 an hour. Unlimited internet, $29.95. You know who signed up? America. America Online. The entire country signed up. 30 million the first month signed up. You know how much money that is? 30 million times $30? Okay? You got that? Yeah, $3 billion, right? Or something like that. $9 billion. I don't remember the amount. You do this math. It's too high. The point is, they wrecked their company in 2 seconds. You know why? Because you had, back then you had to plug your phone line in and it made these weird numbers.
It's called a modem.
Modem, that's it. You had to plug the phone line into the modem in the back of your computer. But when this happened, they didn't have their infrastructure set up. And they knew they didn't have their infrastructure. So you just get a busy signal. Yeah. And so you would get a busy signal and you couldn't get online. For 2 months, this was a problem.
You couldn't get on your phone?
Yeah, because it was taken.
It's going through the phone line.
Yeah. So it would just be a busy signal over and over again because there was too many people trying to get in. Well, guess what? They took that billions of dollars from those first 2 months that they made and they created an unbelievable infrastructure. And then, if you had complained during that 2 months, you know what they did?
Gave you free service.
They gave you your money back. They give you your money back for 2 months. If you complained for 2 months this hasn't worked, then okay, your next 2 months are free. Meanwhile, what did they do? They captured the entire market of the United States for 6 or 7 years. Do you know I still have an AOL email address? People laugh at me. You know what I did? Because I was just learning these things, I took $1,000 and I bought AOL stock. It tanked. It tanked. It went to nothing. It was pennies. I took $1,000 and I bought it. You know how much money I cashed out at? And I could have made a lot more. Because their company, their stock grew, split, grew, split, grew, split, over and over and over again, and I just took all the winnings and put it back into it. I just reinvested over and over again, and then I got out. And it probably grew and split 3 more times after that, but I'm not going to do that. The point is, I'm loyal to AOL because they made a smart business decision, and it paid off for them. There's nothing left of them now. But you know what? While they were there, they were amazing. Amazing. So ready, fire, aim is how we do our business. The very last part of the experience curve theory, the very last thing is called redesign. Redesign means that a company's solutions come from the people doing the work. It is your responsibility as district managers, as part of this company, to fix the problems as they occur. Because we're ready, fire, aim, there's a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. If you need to fix something, you find a way to fix it. We create the problems by go. We just go. And we create problems, and then we fix the problems. And we doesn't mean somebody above you. We means you. We means you. Because when this company goes public, okay, this is what I've seen before. The pioneers in this company, that's the people who start with us as we're getting to the point where we need to get, I'll make sure that they get taken care of with pre-IPO stock so that you're going to be able to get a really good amount of money. And if I don't remind you, the first day when the stock goes up, sell it. Sell it. Don't keep it. Don't like, oh, I'm going to do, no, just sell it. You're going to get it at a really low price, and then just, on the first day, when it reaches a peak, sell it. And then just wish you made more. Doesn't matter. You can just say, I would have made this, but I made this, right? That would be good. What happens is when you're sitting here in a company that goes public, $25, $30 million plops underneath you. None of those people who are in management there have any desire for your job. What they desire is that you'll teach hundreds of people what you do. So when this money comes in, you go like this. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And I'll be on the sidelines rooting for you because I cash out before all that.
The numbers game.
I don't have all those letters after my name. When you go public, if you don't have a lot of letters after your name, you're not involved. So they actually used to refer to me as the tunnel rat. You know, in the military, when they're sending a recon unit, they send these tunnel rats in first to find all the mines, identify all the dangers. Most of the time, hopefully most of the time they make it through, but that's their job. Okay? That's my job. I come up with the idea, I bring it to them, and they take it and do what they do. They go public. And before all that, I say goodbye. I say goodbye. Because I've done what I needed to do to make everybody successful. All right, so now I've told you everything about this job that I can tell you. We're almost done. All I have to do now is talk you out of it. That's all I have to do. So I'm going to do my best to talk you out of it. And it's going to start with your answer to this simple question. And I'm going to write your answer right here. Right? Ready? Are you afraid to make a lot of money?
No.
See how easy that was? You all said no. Now let me try this. Now let me see if it's really true. Okay? All the years I've been doing business consulting, I have come up with one word that either stagnates or destroys every business. It is the reason why businesses don't grow. It is the reason why businesses fail. And it's one word, and you'll never think of it, so I'm just going to tell you. I'm going to write it. Now, you wouldn't have thought of that, would you? But see, here's the thing. Let me ask you a very direct question. Have you ever had a boss who asked you to do something, and it was clear, like you could smell it on them, that they had no idea what you do? Or that they had no desire to do it themselves? Do you ever have a boss like that? Now, when it's at the end of the day and there's one more thing to do, and you've done a great job all day, but you've got some other plans, and that boss says, hey, can you stay for an extra 10 minutes? What do?
You still stay.
Some people stay, but some people, that's enough of a reason to not want to go over the top just to get them more credit, because they don't care about you one bit. You see, in business, what that looks like is, usually when I go in to consult a business, it's somebody's son, daughter, wife, husband, somebody who's too pretty or too handsome, somebody who's a cousin, an uncle, an aunt. It's always something. But that person in that position, while maybe being very educated, maybe being very smart, doesn't know how to do the job they're asking others to do. And this is supposed to be management? You see? So the problem is that having somebody placed over others when they have no idea what the others do creates a problem. Now, if you want to multiply that problem out times infinity, make it be about sales. Because when you place a sales manager above a sales force, and the sales manager, utter knowledge of sales comes from another industry, a different way of doing things, or some books, God forbid, then that sales manager behind their back is a laughingstock, is a joke. And it doesn't work. If you want to grow a company, you have to have people who are willing to teach the people who do the work how to do the work from experience, not from general knowledge. That's why it takes 3 to 5 months. Now remember, what I told you guys, you're going to spend 80% of your time doing as a district manager. What do you do?
Hiring, training, maintaining.
A highly effective, motivated sales force, right? Good. So, how are you going to hire, train, and maintain a highly motivated sales force if you have no idea how to sell the product they sell? You don't even know what the product is. I'll bet you don't know what the product is. See, you think the product, let's say that we just go by the roofing. You think the product is roofs, and that's the reason why we went from 60,000 to 600,000. It's not roofs. You know what the product is? That's the product. That's what our salespeople sell every day. That's what they sell. Free roof inspections. Now, let me give you some statistics. I can insult you and say, are you average or below average or above average? And you're all going to say I'm above average. But let's just use the average. It's better, okay? 1.7 installs per week. That's how much the average district manager trainee is going to have installed. That's how many roofs will be installed per week from your efforts in terms of free roof inspections. Okay? 1.7, that's it. Now, how much is that? The $1,486 is the average commission that you make on a roof. $1,486. So let's just say $1,500 because I don't really feel like doing any more difficult math. 1,500 times 1.7, right? You're going to make me do the math? Somebody do it. 35, 10, 1,500, 25.50 per week. 25.50 per week times 52 weeks is $30,000, $140,000 a year. So, this is the thing. As a district manager trainee who is learning what we do, how we sell our product, all the things that you would need to learn to train others. As you're doing that, you're going to be making that. If you're average. If you're average. Now, some people have asked, what's the most anybody has made? Okay. Our first district manager, right? His second month here, that's what he made. Second month. Okay? You know why? Because he did what he was asked to do. Now, you want to hear something funny? When he became a district manager, he dropped all the way to that minimum to start with, right? Talk about a pay cut. He was ecstatic taking the pay cut, and so should all of you be. Because if you're sitting in this room counting money right now because of your sales efforts while you're training, you're the wrong person. The idea of having to sell free roof inspections should be on the edge of disgusting. Okay? It's okay. I'm saying it out loud. It should feel like this is going to be the hardest thing I'm ever going to have to do. That's okay. You weren't hired here to be salespeople. A district manager is an administrative position, but you do have to know how to sell. You do have to know how to sell. Did you think that you could attain to a position like this without knowing every part of the job for the people that you train? Absolutely not. Now, the quickest anyone has ever become a district manager is 3 months. And the longest it's ever taken is 5 months. So let's just use 5 months. And I'm going to ask you a question. Is it worth spending 5 months doing the hardest thing you ever had to do to have a career with a company that will propel you to profound income?
Absolutely.
That's the question. So, I got more to do though to scare you out of this. This is my favorite part. I'm kind of sadistic, I gotta be honest. But this is my favorite part. What does it mean when a company offers salary plus commission? You know what it means to the business owner? I get to pay you half.
That's it.
Because by giving you salary plus commission, I'm giving you something that every potential worker wants. You know what that is? It's the S word. Security. You want security in your job, right? You want to know that you're going to get paid whether you work or not. I would love that personally. But you would want to know you want to get paid whether you work or not. Well, let me ask you something. How does that make any sense when 12,000 people get laid off from Amazon? And the fact that they get laid out have nothing to do with how well they worked. Don't be a victim of this, okay? The world needs people to work at Amazon. I get that, and I appreciate that. But if you're going to be a pioneer in a growing company, you've got to be willing to take a risk. You have to be willing to take a risk. The same risk that every salesperson you hire and train will take. And here's the risk. I'm going to write these swear words up here for you. There they are, the cuss words of business applicants because it's like, oh, no. We have people loaded with money in here. But here's what I'm going to tell you. I won't leave you with just that. I want to give you the one good news part. And then we'll be done. My favorite thing, I'm going to go get it. I'm going off screen. I haven't left the building. Okay. This is my favorite thing, my personal favorite thing. Here's why. I told you at the end of this, first of all, you're going to eat. But while you're eating, ones of you will be going to interview. Here's what you're going to do. The interviewer will ask you 3 questions. Did you hear everything? Do you have any questions? When can you start? Now, when they say when can you start, they're going to ask you what Friday can you start? What Friday? And here's the reason why we say Friday. Because I'm not trying to talk you into this. I would prefer to talk you out of this. When you come in and your first day of work here, you'll sit in a classroom just like this, and you'll be taught a whole bunch of stuff about roofs. A whole bunch of stuff about what we do right now. The practical. What types of roofs? 3-tab, architectural. You'll get a whole bunch of written information. And you'll have a weekend assignment. But you know why I start you on a Friday? So that you get an extra 2 days to talk yourself out of this. I need you to be committed to this. This isn't about the money. I don't need any money, just in case you're wondering. I don't make any money here. I don't care about money, okay? So what I want is a successful business. That's why the people who work here while they're training make a ridiculous amount of money. That's why the district managers take a pay cut when they get their branch. $100,000 will be a pay cut for you, but you'll be happy to leave the training stage. Doesn't matter about the money. It matters about the potential. So you want to get to district manager, but you have to be willing to do that. Oops, hold on 1 second. Hey, anybody here? Seriously? I'll be right back, Tampa. My battery's low. Let's see here. I'll be right back, guys.
Problem solved. Yeah, we got the
Okay, good. Tampa, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. My battery's low, so I had to run and get somebody to bring me a battery charger. So anyway, let's keep going. Thank you. Can you just plug in?
I grabbed mine because I'm like, you ran over so
Right on the
fast.
left side, right there.
I got the same laptop.
Thank you. Okay, good. All right, so where was I? Anyone remember? I don't remember.
Talking about taking a pay cut.
Oh yes, when you become a district manager, you take a pay cut.
Automatically.
Okay? Now, when we say full commission, there is one thing that makes this not full commission. And so if you do come in on Monday, it's because you have counted the cost. Count the cost. Don't start this job on an emotional high thinking, this is great, blah, 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 this guy made a great presentation. I seriously would prefer to talk you out of it if that's the case. If you want this job, if you really want to spend 5 months, just take the worst case scenario, doing the hardest job you've ever had to do, okay, then come in on Friday. Everybody in your life that you know is going to try to talk you out of this. Everybody. And that's okay. I want you to just ask them one question. How much do you make? Just ask them how much they make. Okay? If they make less, then keep thinking about it. That's all I'm asking you to do. The most successful people in this world work on full commission. Whether you're a business owner, that's full commission, in case you haven't done the math there. Everything that has to do with being successful has to do with being rewarded for your efforts, not penalized for somebody else's failures. This is as close as you're going to get to that. However, if you do come in on Monday, you're going to get placed with a trainer. You'll have some more classroom training, but then you're going to go out for the first time. It's scary. You're going to go out. We know where to look. The insurance companies tell us where to look. Oh, I forgot that whole thing. When we talk about free roof inspections yield free roofs. Our customers don't pay for their roofs. The insurance company does. Their homeowners insurance. If you have homeowners insurance for 10 years, you're paying somewhere in the neighborhood of $180,000. And so a $20,000 roof is something that an insurance company will do. Okay? Here's the neat thing. If you have damage on your roof, we send an inspector to your roof, to the roof. So you go to the customer, they say, yeah, do a free roof inspection. You don't go up on the roof. We send a inspector trained by insurance companies to go up on the roof. They mark it off just like the insurance companies do. All the wind damage, all the hail damage, it all gets marked off. Pictures are taken. Sometimes hundreds of pictures are taken. And then that information gets sent to the insurance company. The insurance company sends out an adjuster. We meet with the adjuster. Our inspector meets with the adjuster, goes over everything again. Almost 80%, 78%. So it's 8 out of 10 times that we do a roof inspection, the roof gets bought for 2 reasons. One is because we don't go from house to house trying to get a free roof inspection. We learn how to identify roofs that need to be replaced from the ground. It's not hard. We learn. And then our inspectors know what they're doing. So they'll come off the roof and tell the customer, your roof's fine. And you may be disappointed that the roof is fine, but if it was your roof, you'd be happy, right? So we just tell people honestly, we're transparent. Your roof is fine, you don't need a new roof. Great. But we also tell them if their roof needs to be replaced. And then they trust us to talk to their insurance company for them. We advocate for our customers. And our customers end up with free roofs. All of that money that you see that we do every year here in Atlanta is for free roofs. Our customers love us because they don't pay any money. Yes?
Don't they pay deductible?
They have to pay their deductible, but we have a way to handle that as well.
I was about to say, 9 times out of 10, you start getting the stuff on the inside of the house and other things, it all adds up to cover out that deductible.
Yeah, we help the customer.
Yeah, it is different.
So that's important from that standpoint. But here's what happens on the Monday. You go out with your trainer. Your trainer's going to tell you 2 things. One is, listen to everything I say, and 2 is, don't talk. Don't talk. Don't say a word.
Learn.
Let the trainer walk through their day with you. They'll show you how they identify the homes. They'll show you how they go up to the homeowner and offer them a free roof inspection. What do they say? And at the end of the first day, you'll have 2 inspections scheduled, minimum. 2. Now, well, the next day you'll come in for your training. Excited because you got 2 inspections scheduled, which will be being done the next day. Okay? Then you'll come in on Tuesday morning and you'll spin this wheel twice because you had 2 inspections. Now, by the way, when your trainer gets 2 inspections, guess what? You own half of that deal. Now, why would a trainer give you half of their deal?
You're with them.
Because we work for each other. They want you to be successful. You need to get some deals going, right? So you're going to spin the wheel 2 times. So you're spin the wheel 2 times, $50, and I like spinning, so you have to bear with me. $75. So you made $125 day 1, right? So day 2 you go out, and now they're going to do a approach to a door, and you're going to do an approach to a door. And you're going to take turns, and those deals again, you'll split with the trainer, right? That's day 2. And you'll also go to 2 inspections where you are on the ground with the customer and the inspector is up on the roof. And the inspector comes off the roof and says, you need a new roof, you should file a claim. You do a claim filing right there with the customer, right then. 2 of them. You don't say a word though, your trainer doesn't. Okay? So now, guess what? You filed 2 claims and you have 2 more roof inspections scheduled. Guess what that means?
3 times.
4, right? So you got 4 spins. Oh, 25, that's terrible. All right. I could do better. 50, that's 75. That's 150. 175, second day. 175, you get the point. Let's say you really take off. Every day we have people who are being trained in. Some days they'll do 5, some days they'll do 6. They just come out running. All right? That's great. So they'll do 5, they'll do 6. Every single one you're getting a roll. If you do what you're asked to do, just on the bonuses. This is not a draw, this is not a loan, this is just bonuses. Because I need my trainees to move along as quickly as possible and to be able to get through that first week or 2 until we start doing their installs for them. Okay? So you're going to get to spin this wheel just on the bonuses. You'll do $500 to $1,000 a week just on that. And when you sign your first contract, which should only take within the first 2 weeks, you should have 2 or 3 to sign, you can get $500 just, now that would be a loan on your commission, but if you need to get money coming in besides this $500 to $1,000, that's fine too. So we are in the business of making sure you move along as quickly as possible. We really aren't interested in making money at this point. We're turning that money over to benefits for the customers, okay? If you have a customer that has a 3-tab roof, that is the cheapest type of roof, okay? If you have a customer like that, do you realize that we never install 3-tab roofs? We only install architectural. Do you know what we charge the customer for that? Nothing. We use synthetic underlayment, we use fire and water, we use all the stuff we're supposed to use, and then some. Everything we do is the premium to do. And we charge the customer nothing for that. And we include a lifetime guarantee that we get from the manufacturer because we order that much stuff. Okay? So our customer gets all of those benefits for nothing. Because we want really, really happy customers. We will invest in these customers so that we can go back to them and tell them about the advantages of getting solar, of using our solar panels. Now, one last thing I'm going to tell you, and then we'll be done, I promise. Many people have doubted the idea that there will be legislation that will occur that's going to cause people to get behind, or politicians to get behind this idea. And the reason why it can be thought of as so difficult is because half the population in this country doesn't believe there's a problem with the environment. And half lies and says they think there's a problem. In other words, that same half. In other words, if you ask people if they think there's a problem with the environment, 100% will say yes. But deep down they'll think, oh, this is nonsense. Okay, that's half the population. The other half truly is concerned. But the problem then is, how are you going to get legislation to pass? Here's how you do it. You turn the lights off. That's it. You just turn the lights off. Watch. See how dark it just got? What happens if the lights go out?
I take a nap.
But I mean, what happens if they don't come back on?
People start panicking.
So now you're going to go to the grocery store, the lights have gone off and they haven't come back on. And if you're lucky enough to have gas in your vehicle, because you can't pump gas anymore because it takes electricity to do that, because our enemies have turned off our power grid. Their fingers on the switch. Our fingers on their switch. The next war in this world will involve cyber terrorism way more than conventional warfare. They will shut down a country. We can do it, they can do it. They spend billions of dollars making sure that their finger is on the switch. If the switch gets turned off and you go to the grocery store, what are you going to bring?
Flashlight.
And a gun.
Yeah.
Because once the food's gone, there's no trucks to bring more.
That's it.
And you got to take care of your family. If you're in the north and it's cold and it's the winter and your neighbor has firewood and you don't,
Don't steal.
you're going to do what you have to do because your family's going to die if you don't. Turning off the power in this country, will create such a widespread panic that the enemy literally could walk in with the promise of turning on the lights and we would surrender. What we need is a buffer. If everybody can turn their lights on, run their heat or air for a couple hours a day, then we take what would be an absolute impossible situation to make it incredibly inconvenient. But it also buys time because we're not going around killing each other because everybody has a little bit of solar power. You see? Now that kind of argument people can get behind because fear is a wonderful motivator. Okay? So what you're going to see when all this legislation comes to pass is that. So I'll go back to the original question. Is it worth spending 5 months doing, and I promise you, the hardest job you've ever been asked to do? Forget about making money, because that's not even going to be an issue. You'll make money. But is it worth doing the hardest job you've ever been asked to do? To be involved with this company? If you've caught the vision, the answer is yes. If you didn't, then the answer is have a piece of pizza or whatever they brought for you and go home and find something else. But if this is something you think you'd be interested in, I hope that you will stay, and I hope that I'll see you. For you in Tampa, I hope I'll see you next week. For you guys here, I hope I'll see you very soon. So thanks for coming. Thanks for putting up with my technical problems and my terrible sense of humor. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and close this, Paul, and I'll let you get to your lunch and your interviews.
Okay, thank you.
Nice to see you.
Thank you.